Hello everybody, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today I want to talk about something that's a little bit different, still training related, but nothing to do with what you normally might think. You've already clicked on the video, you already know what I'm going to talk about anyway. But essentially I wanted to talk about something that I had to learn pretty much by force the other day. So essentially in the invitation to go to the Commonwealth, you have to get a certificate from WADA, it's like ADL or something like that, certificate to say you've been competent and been instructed. It's a 14 chapter course about drug testing, WADA, and all the doping rules and stuff like that. So just all about drug testing, essentially, and the rules that athletes all across the world have to follow if under administration by WADA. Now, if you don't know what WADA is, it's the World Anti-Doping Agency. Now, these boys are fucking everywhere. You've seen them in the Olympics, you see them in Tour de France. I think they did UFC. I think they're out of the UFC now. But essentially, you know, powerlifting. There's a few sports like strongman. They're not involved in, but you know, for the most part, most sports across the world, if there's a drug testing thing that's going on, WADA's most likely behind it. Now, I didn't know how big WADA really was. I mean, from an outside perspective, who's just like, well, yeah, steroids are banned, doping's banned, beta blockers are banned. It's very broad terms you just use for massive lists of ingredients. But I'm going to put a link up on screen for you guys to go and have a read. So if you are planning on competing, or you already are and you haven't seen this already, because you might only be like a national athlete, which I don't think you ever need to, unless the federation you're competing in requires you to have it. But for powerlifting, if you do any international competitions, they want you to have that information. But essentially, I think the list of banned substances is like 500 long. Every chemical you can imagine under the sun that you've never heard of, they're banned. And going through the list, there's like from A to fucking Z, and there's hundreds of them, and they all come under different categories. And one thing else I've learned as well is that some drugs, depending on what sport, are allowed out of competition times. So, for example, let's say you're powerlifting, and testosterone and testosterone derivatives all year round, no matter when, are a banned substance if you compete in powerlifting. However, if you was to be taking a kind of painkiller because you've had a prescription from a doctor, then that could slide with an exemption note, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, about the rules and exemptions. So there is some drugs that are allowed. So like marijuana, people who smoke the old Trinidad trumpet, yeah, you know who you are. Some sports do allow that for as long as it's out of your system before midnight on the night before of the competition. So as long as on comp day you are completely clear of it, you're allowed to have it recreationally in your own time. They are all on the website, so I really do implore you to have a read, because there is so many rules to this, and it gets quite deep. And I'll give my take on it and my opinion on it at the very end. But let's keep going. So apart from the banned substances, when you can take them, can't take them, which depending on your sport you should look into, I want to start to talk about the penalties and the exemptions. So you might have always heard of that one athlete who gets caught for some kind of drug and it's in their protein powder or some shit like that. So what WADA say and what they claim is that if you are going to buy supplements, right, and that means whey protein, even though I think that's food, even if you are to buy supplements, creatine, whey protein, proper mild ones, then in order to not get a 4-year ban for ingesting a banned substance, if you have the following: a receipt of your purchase, a batch test certificate for the product, and you can prove that you took it unknowingly ingesting that banned chemical. And even if it's not labelled on the product, you will still get a 2-year ban from all sports on the planet. Anything that WADA controls. So that's pretty fucking hefty. So you do get athletes who have maybe taken a pre-workout or a creatine. They've been tested. They found a chemical substance in their bloodstream, which may not even be that serious. It might not even be a like testosterone derivative, but it might be banned within that sport. Might not be like anything serious. It might not be anything. And even if you can say, I've had it, it's a batch tested one, it's not on the label, it doesn't matter, you will still get a 2-year ban, because they claim that anything ingested into your body is your responsibility. Therefore, you must take the blame. Now, I'm going to say my opinion on this to the very end. I'm just going to lay the information out for you. Another thing you've got to do as well is, if you have a prescription drug, any kind of prescription drug, you have to get a doctor's note and you have to file, I forgot the form name, but you have to basically file out a form with WADA to tell them why you're taking it, which doctor is administering it to you, why they're administering it to you, and get it approved. And I think it only has a time limit of 1 year. So if it comes to the end of the year and you haven't renewed the agreement with WADA and they've accepted it, if they find it in your system, despite having a previous form to disclose that why you're taking that, you will get a 4-year ban. So if you have anything from asthma pumps, hay fever tablets, honest to God, anything, absolutely anything, ibuprofen in different countries than Britain or the United States, you've got there is so many ways you can get banned from sport. Now, let's say you are to be tested. So I'm going to run through some of the rules about how they test you. So essentially, it starts with just, you have to inform them your place of work. So that means exactly what room, so if you're in a university and you teach, you have to tell them what room you teach in. You have to tell them, let's say, what gym or track you train at, and what times you train there. You have to give them a 1-hour slot of the day where you're guaranteed to be in a certain location, such as home. If you all right, okay, I've got to put my opinion in this one. Even if, let me give me some context here, because essentially during the course that it asks you a question on the quiz and it says, your gym has, it's like Paul's gym has suddenly had a water pipe burst and the gym's flooding and it's closed. Now the repairs are only taking place for a week, so he has to train somewhere else for the week, right? He doesn't inform WADA on his change of plan, right? And WADA turn up to the gym and they find that, well, Paul's not there. I wonder fucking why. And essentially, because he's not there, they deem him being fraudulent and thus gets a 4-year ban. Now, I think that is fucking ludicrous. That is crazy. So, in essence, every move you take, everything you do, you have to report it. If you change jobs, you have to report it. If you change where you live, have to report it straight away. If you change gyms for a day, you have to report it. refusal of being tested at any time, any place, anywhere will result in a 4-year ban. Even if for some reason you was at a funeral, right, they'd still have to say, we're testing you afterwards. There's no coming back another day. So you've got, it is fucking crazy. I don't know why it's gone to that extreme, but you have to report things even if it's like a small deviant from your program, or because they can still come and visit you the same day somewhere else and you'd still get successful results if they were doping that day, because nothing leaves your bloodstream within 24 hours, really. So yeah, that is just a bit fucking ludicrous, to say the least. But essentially what they do is they can either administer a blood test or a urine sample, and if they have a blood test, they'll have a licensed physician with them. And they can do this anywhere, by the way. This isn't, if you're training in the gym, there's a few exemptions. So if they, let's say, come to your gym and you are there, they want to test you, you do have a right, like not legally, like government-wise, but within WADA, you have a legal right to finish your training session and then be tested. I also think, what's the other exemption? Oh, you're allowed an interpreter. So if you don't speak the language of said person, you are allowed an interpreter. So while you might not refuse to be tested, you can't understand them. You're allowed to ask any questions you like. So you're not like forced to stay silent. You are allowed to report the person who administered the test if you find that they were, let's say, out of line in any way. But essentially, you can't say no. 3 a.m, 2 p.m, work, gym, home, wherever, funeral, doesn't matter. You have to be tested by blood or urine. Now, urine, they have like 2 little sample pots, and they'll have like A and B. Essentially, you take a kit and you'll piss in, I think you piss in like B or something like that. Then you pour a bit of B into A, and they have 2 samples. They take 2. And I think what they do is one of the samples stays in their lab for pretty much indefinitely. And the other one they test straight away, as it usually gets destroyed while testing it. Now, the reason they keep that one vial behind is because you can't test for all drugs out of one sample. As I said earlier, there's so many banned substances that you physically cannot test for every single one. However, let's say 5 years down the line, you get tested again on suspicion of another drug. They will run back that other vial that they've had for however long, and they will test that. And if it comes back positive, you can pretty much guarantee your entire athletic career will be just fucking erased. So there is not a lot of incentive to really cheat. There's really not, especially when you have to walk on eggshells around things like hay fever tablets and asthma pumps and creatine. And it can happen to anyone. It's quite, from what I've seen, it is quite common. However, when you get caught for like testosterone and you blame it on your creatine powder, I'm a bit lackluster to believe that. But there's so many other smaller chemicals out there that come under like, I don't know, like a narcotic or beta blockers, stuff like that, that they can be hidden in them as a filler ingredient that other countries, especially foreign countries with less regulations, will put in their products. So always be careful as fuck. It's like if you're competing under WADA, it is crazy out here. There's also an anonymous reporting tool as well. The WADA has about, I think it's Speak Up or something like that. So essentially, WADA have an app that you can anonymously report other athletes and/or coaches as well for administering illegal substances within your sport. So I think that out of all of this is a very good thing, because in powerlifting, it's normally pretty easy to know if somebody's on the juice or not. And if you anonymously report it, and I'll say to have evidence, but you have a strong enough cause to say, this is the person, here's what he competes at, like, look at his record. Let's say he's absolutely blindingly beating everyone every single fucking year, and he's breaking records, and he's jacked to the gills and his veins are popping, like, you know, and you're like, mate, I'm sick of this. You can report him, and you can get other people to report him. And they, by most chances, if they think there's a good correlation there, they will test them. And if they do get caught, they will have their record wiped and get a 4-year ban. So it is definitely that, I think, is one of the best things that has come out of WADA, is the ability for other athletes to, it's not like snitch, but we all want to play the game fairly, right? I mean, if you're going to be under such scrutiny all the time and you're going to play it safe and do the right thing, then to be having other people kind of surpassing that and not really caring about fair sport, fuck them, essentially. You know what I mean? If, you know, fuck them. So, yeah, I think that's really great. I'm going to put a link to that as well. You should see it on screen now. I'll put a photo up on it if you would like to take a look. But what's my take on it? Now, in all honesty, I think the rules and the harshness of some of it is a bit fucking crazy. I think that even if, you know, you can prove that you've taken something unknowingly and you've got all the evidence required to say that, the fact you still will get a 2-year ban, I think is pretty fucking hefty. And that's not just a ban from your sport, that's a ban from all sports. And it will be on your record forever. Yeah? So I think it's a bit heavy. The banned substance list is very long, and I can imagine why there's reasons for it, because athletes and coaches will find any way and any substance and chemical compound on the planet to give them a 1% edge. And obviously they have been exploited before. Now, even if they're in trace amounts, it's still banned. So, you know, there is a limit where I think a lot of these drugs, there's a minimum requirement in order to say that you are, like, let's say over the limit, let's say, you know, like drinking, stuff like that. Which I also want to add as well, if they do drug test you and you're on a piss up or whatever, and you're, I don't know, at the pub, and whatever reason they're at the pub as well, you will not get a suspension for having alcohol in your system. The only time you will is if it's in comp hours or at midnight, midnight onwards on comp day. Does that make sense? So alcohol's okay. Drink alcohol, that's perfectly fine. Things like cocaine and heroin are classed as abuse drugs, or, you know, like methamphetamine. Well, methamphetamine is a bit different because it can have some effects on training, but for the most part, they're classed as abuse drugs and treated a little differently. I still think the rule still applies about the bans, but I don't know if you'll get a 4-year ban, because they're not inherently performance boosters. They're just kind of like party drugs. So, I mean, there may be, I haven't looked that deep into it and asked that many questions, but just know that if you're on a night out and you're drinking and they find alcohol in your system, you will not get a suspension from sports. You are allowed to drink, which I'm super fucking chuffed about. But yeah, anyway, that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys liked the video and learned something a bit different today, and maybe have swayed your opinion on, you know, how drug testing is performed and what the rules are underneath WADA's administration. So if you like this video, drop it a like, leave a comment, maybe subscribe if I'm feeling lucky. But anyway, guys, you have a great day and I'll see you soon.